there's like me running around in my underwear or something and stuff like that. And it's just like freezing cold. We're shooting this. It was raining on me at one point. It was at night and the water had washed all the way back. And we're like, so we go and we can't find the shore.
What's up, Danny? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, of course. Hell yeah.
Cool. Thanks for being flexible on the time too.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Awesome.
Are you in Nashville? Is that correct?
Yeah. Nashville.
Sick.
Are you in LA? Is that what I read?
I am in LA. That's true. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm from San Diego originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I recently moved to LA or Nashville, but I know LA quite well.
That's sick. I'm from St. Louis originally, so we kind of swapped.
Right. Yeah, I did see that as well. We'll get into it. I'm Adam, and I appreciate you doing this. This is a podcast about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, very cool. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So talk to me about St. Louis. What was it like growing up there?
St. Louis is cool. I was like in North St. Louis, so like Florissant is where I grew up, the suburb. And it was cool. It's like kind of like small town vibes, but like right in between the city. Like you can get to the city in 20 minutes and you can be like on a farm in 10 minutes. So
oh, wild.
Yeah, it was in between worlds in a cool way. But yeah, I liked growing up there, but I was ready to get out, Yeah.
Sure. So how did you get into music? Do you come from a musical household?
Yeah, so not really. My parents never had anything to do with music, honestly. Like none of my family did, but me and my brother did. And me and my brother were like really serious about it. So and then we played our whole lives and we're like always in lessons. And like I think my parents like wanted us to do it, or like maybe they just love music. So they were like, you're gonna do this, and then we just like were really good at it. So I started on like piano when we were super young, like doing piano lessons, and then from there I started playing trumpet. So I played trumpet like through my whole life, like really seriously, and that was like how I went to like college, and that was like always the thing growing up. It's like that's how you're gonna pay for your college, and you're gonna get a scholarship. So practice and do that whole thing, and it turned out to be true. That's how I like we're all first generation college family, so that's how I was able to leave St. Louis. I went to Denver for 2 years, and then I went and finished school in LA, and that's how I started like getting in the mix of things in music. But I think I really fell in love with music for the first time. I was playing drums. Like my brother's friend just like gave me his old drum set, which was really fire, and then I just used to sit in the basement and like play it for hours. And then my brother had a guitar, and we got all the amps and shit, and would just like jam all day. That's like all we did for real from when I was like in middle school and stuff, and had a punk band and did all that. So yeah, that's the whole.
So is your brother older or younger than you?
Yeah, he's older. He's a few years older.
Okay. Was he already doing piano lessons, or did you guys kind of get put into it at the same time?
We all got put in at the same time. Like we had this piano teacher, and we'd all go over, and she had a pool, so it was sick when we were really young.
Oh, nice.
Swim, and then it had to be your turn to go take a lesson, and then that was cool. And then my sister almost drowned once there, though. That was fucked up.
Oh my gosh. Why? Because the piano teacher is not paying attention. She's teaching piano.
No, we were all out there
swimming.
I think it was my brother's lesson, and then we were out there and like just swimming, and like it's like fast, but like I think she just ended up in the deep end somehow. And then my mom was like reading a book or something, and I was like, yo, mom, Alyssa's like drowning. Like I was really young, she was really young. So my mom jumped in and like saved her and all this. And like,
holy shit.
Really dramatic. It's okay. I think just like traumatized. But that was during the piano lessons. That's some of my early memories there. But yeah, definitely some of my earliest memories is like learning piano and all that.
At that point where you're like, I'm done with these piano lessons.
Yeah, it's too risky, but I might be the next one for the deep end.
Sure.
No, but yeah, no, I did that for a while, and I think I would be very on and off. Like if I wanted to practice, I get really into it, or like if I found stuff. I was always pretty like much. I want to learn what I wanted to learn, which is like cool because I always think like if people are learning now, I like really tell them just to lean on that. Like whatever you're curious about, like you're gonna get everything, all the technique and everything just by like figuring out what you're curious about. So like it's not really always about like forcing yourself to practice until you're like curious what's on the other side of it. But so I don't know, I was on and off, and eventually I stopped, and then I did like the year of violin that everyone does in like public school, and I was really into that too. And then but trumpet, like for some reason I like fell in love with trumpet. I think it's a jazz thing or something, but yeah.
So when did you start playing the trumpet then?
I think it was the 4th grade when I went to a new school. I went to
Okay.
like I was in like public school, and then I went to like the fancy school, like really far away, like 30 minutes away. And then they had like the cool band program and all that, and I wanted to do that. So yeah, I started playing trumpet, and it was cool. Yeah, I feel like music, I always just got really into it, like whatever I was doing. So yeah, yeah.
Was you talked about how you and your brother are the two that kind of picked it up and kept going with it. Like, did he also play trumpet, or did he play a different instrument, and did he end up attending that same school that you did?
He did play trumpet. And my sister did too. My sister never liked it. She did not care. So she did a few years and was just like, why? No
Done
way.
with
But
it.
my brother, yeah, which is like, yeah, she's not that type of person. But my brother was a trumpet player. So at one point it was 3 trumpet players. And then he well, where was I going? Yeah, so we don't, and I have a theory. I actually wanted to play saxophone, and I remember going to the store to get a saxophone, and then and the store owner like told me that my like fingers were too big or something to play saxophone. And I think my
Interesting.
mom was just like nudging him, like, have him play trumpet because we have all the trumpets. So
Oh, sure. He's
that
like,
might
your
be the
big
real.
fingers will be great on this trumpet.
Yeah, there was definitely one of those moments. I think she really convinced him to like talk me into it, which which worked out because she had all like the good trumpet teachers and all that, like from my book. So it made sense. But yeah, maybe I was, maybe that's the real origin story. Maybe it's not so romantic. But yeah. But then yeah, and then he played through. He went to Belmont, so in Nashville.
Oh, wow.
He played
Okay.
all the way to school and did that. Yeah.
Is he still playing now or no?
No, not really. He was teaching,
Okay.
and he teaches Spanish. He was teaching band and rock. He did music ed, so he
Oh,
did
cool.
rock band, and then now he's teaching Spanish.
Nice. Okay. So you continue playing trumpet, you said, through high school and into college?
Yeah, yeah. Like I went to Denver for 2 years, and I was I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I definitely didn't want to do music because I was like, I didn't really feel like going to school for it was the move. But then I was just doing all the classes I was like curious about, and I was like, maybe I'll just major will fall into my lap. But then I was doing all of music classes, like every composing class and everything I could do. Like as soon as a new one opened up, I would just like have my advisor sign me up. And so then I ended up with all these credits, and then I found a program out in LA that wanted to give me a scholarship. And I had been going to LA a lot. Because weirdly, I was DJing. Somehow, like the sports director found out I DJ, and he was like, "Yo, I want you to DJ like every game, every basketball game." I was like, "Okay," and then paid me a bunch of money randomly, like a very proper rate to do like 2 games a weekend. So I had like a good amount of money, and I was just flying to LA all the time because that's why I started doing sessions and started being like, "Oh, this is a thing happening here." And I always wanted to be in LA. So like every long weekend, and it's an easy Denver to LA is like
Yeah.
cheap flights at both big
Quick flight.
airports.
Yeah.
So I would just like buy flights all the time. And like, so that's how I started going to LA. Then I started like having some things like, oh, this is, you can make a living off of this, is seeming more real. So then I had all these music credits, and I went and finished it out here, and then moved here. Like I finished early still, even though I transferred, and just like dove right into making music seriously. And then yeah, that was I would
Well,
say.
you talked about going out there for sessions. Like, how were you making connections with people in LA to get to these writing sessions?
So I was meeting people. I had been coming out a lot to visit, so I had been meeting people, and then every time I was there, we would like work on stuff. And then when I finished school, I went and moved in with some friends who had a loft. It was there's a few producers there that I had been friends with. They had this loft and like studio set up there, and they were like, "Oh, we need someone to come sublet." Someone just moved out. I had just finished, so I was like, Oh, cool. That seems perfect. I moved in there. We started working on a lot. I did some good stuff, and then um basically, yeah, I think I like pretty quickly locked into a good scene, did my first like pub deal and did all this, and then and then started my album like right after that. So like that was basically that whole process.
Wow. Okay. Just to back up real quick, you talked about being in a band in school with your brother, like punk bands and stuff. So you obviously were writing music and writing songs from there on out, like at an early age.
Yeah, definitely. Like I always wrote songs. When I was young, I wanted to be a pro dirt biker or a singer. But maybe I wanted to be a dirt biker first. And then I think I like wasn't doing that, and I like started like writing songs. So
Okay.
but yeah, that I always wrote songs. I When I was in like seventh grade, I wrote this song. We recorded it on Studio One, and it was like gonna be my big hit. I remember that, and it was like kind of me going solo from my brother, and it was like a beef and all this fun. But like,
In
yeah,
seventh grade?
yeah, for sure. And
Wow.
I have the song somewhere, and my voice is so tiny. I was like a late bloomer for sure. So like I have this tiny little voice, and it's like a new metal song. Like it sounds like Chevelle or something, and I'm like singing my little heart out on this. It's fucking funny. Sorry, I don't know if my curse. I'm trying
No,
to.
you can cuss, man. You can say whatever
Okay,
you want. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's really
Yeah,
funny. You talked about getting a pub deal. Was that how quickly into living in LA, and was that for songwriting? Like, how did that all happen?
yeah, and that was pretty quick, and yeah, I was just doing sessions and doing the thing, and then
Like, was
yeah,
there a particular song that got the attention of someone, or was it just you being around?
I think just being around in a lot of people believing in the project and the album and I was making and that stuff. Yeah, so and then just kind of launched into like fully writing a bunch and working on my album and all this, and that was cool, like coming from Missouri, and like no one even knew anything about the industry or any of that, and it was I don't think people still understand. They'll be like, my grandma's like, oh, you go into an office every day? Like I watched movies, like I don't know, like all
Right,
that,
right, right. Yeah.
it's like they don't, like I was talking to my other friend from who's like doing well in music from like the Midwest. Like there is like Nashville and there's cities where it's happening, but like most of all people have no idea, and they're like, well, if you're gonna be a musician, you're gonna go into the orchestra, I think, which is what my mom thought a lot and stuff like that. They're like, that's how the only way to make a living type of thing, and didn't know about writing pop songs or any of this stuff. And so it was definitely something I had to like figure out, which was nice. And I think it's cool. I mean, it's definitely what I always knew I wanted to do, and I didn't even know like the extent to which it was possible until I started doing it.
Sure. What was like a first like a validating moment for you that
Uh,
kind of kept you going or kept you working on the album or
there was like one of my first songs did really well. Like, um, I was really like starting out when I was like way back. I was like on SoundCloud with everyone, and in those days, and I was playing a lot of trumpet at the time and I was like really into a bunch of jazz stuff and all that. And then and I also liked a lot of like producers in that world. And so I started out just going on SoundCloud, hitting up like everyone, like copy and pasting, like if you need a trumpet player, like everyone I was a fan of, like if you need a trumpet player, blah blah blah. And a lot of people fucking were like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I started just like I met a bunch of people doing that,
Mhm.
and then I was like producing and doing my own stuff. And then one day I just decided, I never really sang on a song since probably like when I was younger, like I said, when I was in like high school and in bands. And then I was like, I'm a producer now, I'm doing all this. So um but then one day I was doing all that, I was like working with a lot of people, and then one day I was just like, well, why don't I just sing on something? I did that, and it did really well, and like a bunch of people were like really hyped on it, and it got started buzzing, and then did really well on Spotify and did, yeah, all that. So it was like that was a nice moment because I hadn't really thought about singing in a while, and I feel like I have like a unique voice, for sure. Like it's
Mhm.
definitely not the same voice as like your very average pop star or whatever. And so that was super reaffirming. It's like, oh, this is weird and different, but people like this, and then maybe there's something to it. uh yeah, that's really when I started thinking about like, oh, okay, maybe I should start building an album and doing that whole thing. So,
Yeah, was that the song What You Want?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you put that out, and like, how quickly does it start going? Like, was it just something you put up on Spotify or you put up on SoundCloud, and then you just quickly see a bunch of plays on it, or like, what was the kind of trajectory of that song?
Yeah, it was really quickly actually. um I'm trying to remember. I was at home. I went home. I was living in LA. I went
Hmm.
back home to St. Louis for like a summer, like type, just to like get my life. Like I was kind of in like a lower place, and like went back and like started to like see a therapist and like go work for my dad and work at my dad has an appliance store. He like delivers air conditioners and all that. Um and like sells mostly to the church down the street and like that kind of like very tiny business. I went home and I was like out here just like really trying really hard to do the thing. And and I went back to just sort of get on my feet type again. And then I made this song in my parents' basement, like it really quickly in like 20 minutes one day. It just like happened and came out. And then I like sent it to my friend. He was like, yo, you gotta like put this up right now, like blah blah blah. And I this was, I mean, it's funny now, but like this was like made the song very quickly, uploaded it within a few days or whatever. Like
Hmm.
there's no rollout or planning it or all this. And then I think people just had been watching like on SoundCloud, and people like were liking what I was doing. And so when that was like something new and there was a lot of support for it. So yeah, pretty immediately uh it was just getting reposted and people were into it. And then like a month later or something, I just stumbled. I had like a STEM account very early because, and I kind of hardly knew what it was, but I was like, oh, I'm on here. So I was like, oh, I can just put it on Spotify. Cool. And I did that. And then I did like alt R&B and a bunch of playlists real quick. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
sick. This is like, yeah, just off like accidentally upload. All of everything was just accidentally uploading stuff. So that was cool. And but yeah, really quickly, I think people just responded super well. So
So
yeah.
once that song starts doing, things quickly, is that when the publishing deal happens, or is that later or prior to that?
Yeah, I think just like working, like I went and was working on a bunch in the next year, and then like a few people have been interested in reaching out and started doing more thinking about like the industry and getting involved in that and going to that, finding the right partners. So yeah, pretty quickly, I think just seeing like how exciting that was. I was really into writing for people a lot, and I do still. Like I go back and forth, and sometimes I'm like, if I feel like I've like really finished where I'm like, and I think I'm getting close to that point where like, finishing a good body of things, and then like thinking about help. I really like helping people if I'm really excited about their project. So I was doing a lot of that at the time. And yeah, basically that was, and then just I think people just got it, saw what I was doing, and believed in it as much as I did. And so yeah.
Wow. Okay. And is this like the most recent song, Mortal Kombat? Is that's going to be on the album? Is like the album something you're still working on releasing,
Yeah, that's
or
on the project on
okay?
the 7th. Yeah. So yeah, that
So
was.
like after you put out the song and it does really well, like were you the next one you do? Is it like are you worried about following that up, or was that not even a thought in your mind?
That's a good question. I think I was knowing like I waited a while. I don't think I dropped for another year or so. But also I was like so new to everything, at the time. So I yeah, I waited a while, and I was just like working on the sound, like I like to work every day. Don't like I just am that, like I'm very the person who wants to make the best music in the world, type of thing. And that's and I think every day it's like chipping away at that. So I think with that, I was like, I want to take my time. I wanted to really get it right, figure out what I wanted to say next. And I think I dropped Swing Said next, which I think was cool. And it sort of began like shaping into the sound that we're arriving at today, and all of that. But yeah, just that process of like of making, 200 songs to get to one. I looked yesterday on I have like the SoundCloud with everything private. I think there's like 900 songs on there in the last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot of
Yeah.
music. So well, I want to talk to you about the new one, but like once like the pandemic hits and all of that's going on, is that something that like how did that affect your music?
Yeah, it was definitely actually pretty transformative, because before that I was really locked in. Like, I was doing sessions every day. I was pulling up, blah blah blah, like loving it, loving working
Uh-huh.
with people, loving writing. And then I started working with my friend Mick a lot, who I wrote a bunch of it with. But we were like locked in working, and then like pandemic happened, and then I don't know. I just hating Zoom sessions for real, but I'll do them. I think everyone is. So
Yeah.
like when that happened, it was just like harder to work in like a fulfilling way on other people's stuff. And I had been thinking about making an album for a while. So at that point, it was like, let's start. I think it was just like transition that energy into working on one project. And
Mhm.
which it was good. It was a bit of a blessing. It kind of sucked to be doing Zoom sessions or not, but like I don't think I would have like focused on like finishing this project in that way if it didn't go that way. So a bit of a blessing and a curse.
Was it easy? Was it hard or easy to stay kind of inspired to write and when you're not really like out living, you know what I mean? You're like at your house or just it was just a weird time, obviously, for everybody. And were you able to be inspired to write music at all? As I've talked to artists that are either were very inspired, like open some tap, or they were like, okay, I'm sick of looking at these four walls. Like I can't even go anymore.
Yeah, I think both. I think I went through a lot of phases, and I think I'm also someone who like I've always felt just like really happy. Like I always felt like I like have done a lot to get to this point. I feel like excited to be here ever since I was 10. I remember I came in like once I started recording music, it was like it was over, and I would be in the basement for 8 hours or something. I remember I came up like one day, I was like, told my mom, I was like, if I can just do this every day, because like I would literally disappear in my mind for like 8 hours at a time, and like come back upstairs and it's dark out and blah blah blah. And I was like, nothing else in my life makes me feel like this, like there's nothing I can just disappear into. And it's also, I think I was in high school or something. I was like, if I can do this every day for the rest of my life, like that's all I want. And so I feel like I'm always in a position where I like feel grateful to be here. I feel like there's like a responsibility to that kid, to work really hard and to like really make the best thing in the world, and like show up for it every day. So I don't think I ever like have, I don't think I ever have been the guy who's like, I quit music, or I don't even know that
Mhm.
that's, in me. I think it just changes on how it works. But it was hard for sure. And I was living in Silver Lake, and we were in like a small apartment at the time. And which made it was like great when the life is happening and you can go out all the time, and I
Mhm.
was never there. Then the pandemic happened, and it was like three of us in this tiny space, and it came small really fast, and we were like, damn, we got to move. And I like, it was so small, like I didn't have a studio there. I was going to another studio, but like I couldn't really work there, blah blah blah. So we ended up moving a few months later to a nice house, and we got a front yard, and we set up a studio there. And so I made a lot of stuff there, but I was also just doing things at the same time to keep my mind like really started getting into very like right brain things to balance it out, because there wasn't like the fulfillment of locking in with other people and like seeing what's cool to them and all this. So like it was nice, because I did find some, like I started getting really into random, like I bought a dirt bike at that time. Like I started just trying to learn everything, just watching like engineering videos on YouTube, just like doing weird stuff, just to anything that's like the opposite of being creative. Like I got really into things with like right answers, and because I
Mm.
think there was such a feeling of like music is this constant like picking away at it, and you're definitely never, and like that's part of the magic, is like it never arrives. And
Right. I've heard that before.
yeah, for sure. And then when you accept that, there's like it's like it's nice, but it's also like, but I got really into things that had right answers. And I was like, in like electricity, or things that seem very strange to me. And like I've lived my whole life, I never knew how this worked. And then just everything I wanted to figure out, like what the right answer was, because I felt maybe a little plagued by like by music being such a by the create that reality of, you know, being creative. So yeah, I think a balance. I think I've found a decent way to balance it and stay like making the most exciting things.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot who I interviewed. They said it's a similar thing. Like even when you get signed to a label, like you get maybe get signed to a label that you've always dreamed about, and then like they're basically saying from that point, like now you're from the kid table, now you're sitting at the big kid table, and it's like, okay, now what? Like okay, now you got there, and now what are you gonna do about it? And then if you even start having success, it's like you never will officially arrive. Like Paul
No,
McCartney's still releasing songs. You
for
know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah. And you definitely always have to like fight for it. And I think people do have this fantasy that like there's a moment, and then it's always like, you know, and if you're really about it, like what success looks like to you is definitely going to change and all this stuff. And, you know, definitely things that have happened, I, you know, never would have thought, but then you're on to the next thing. But then there is that constant, like when you're a kid, you think like, if a label even talks to me, my life is over, you know, like blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then you have to like, but it is also like, I really do think the ones that like are still here and believe in it that much to like push past every one of those boundaries and like see it and you know, learn. I think everything is just like an opportunity for you to figure out what you want to do with it. You know, I think you're like the head of the ship, and I think when artists don't accept that or don't see that or don't have that attitude and wait on, oh, blah blah blah, they said they're gonna do this or this, like that's where things go wrong. And so like when the right thing comes, like it's just about you knowing what to do with it and how to shape it and comment on it as you. I think that's like the responsibility, you know.
Sure. No, I completely agree with you. Well, talk to me about the new one, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So Mortal Kombat, so on the 7th, there's a project, I think 5 new songs coming out, which is like this project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
a
it's coming
lot
out
of,
fairly soon, in a couple weeks.
yeah, right around the corner. A lot of it I made, so I it's a lot of this idea that we started in the pandemic. And we
Okay.
started in that time, and that was sort of a lot of like you know, a bigger process of like, what does this look like building something cohesive. I think when I was growing up, like some of the really crazy albums to me were like, I remember loving like the Gambino, the Because the Internet, because, you know, because it was this
Mm-hmm.
world and he made this screenplay. I was definitely a big fan at the time. But I really liked these cohesive, you know, like great albums, you know. And I think when I'm putting together like this project is like, there was a story to tell. So that started in the pandemic. It was a lot of rights, like Mortal Kombat we made in probably 2019 or something, like the first
Oh,
session,
okay.
top line and all of this. So I all of that, I basically was just writing, rewriting, reworking, finding people to help finish it. And then I did a trip to in February. I moved out of my place in East Hollywood and I went to Europe I went with my girlfriend. We went to Fashion Week, and then I did a writing camp in Marseille. So I was like, it slowly turned into like a whole a whole, I think when you're in Europe, it's easy to keep pushing like, well, it's right here and it's going to be way farther. So I went
Right.
to London. Yeah, I went to London, did my first like Fashion Week. Just she snuck me into a bunch of parties and stuff, and then I went to Paris and did like a bunch of sessions there. There's an artist that I was helping finish his album, and then so we went and did 2 weeks in Marseille to finish his album, and that was cool. I'd never been to Marseille, but that was really cool. We had like a house on the beach, and we're just riding every day and going and eating good food and all that. And then so when I was gonna leave after Marseille, and then I that's when I did the video for Mortal Kombat, actually, because I had did a shoot here with Amir, and who did the video. And I was like, yo, I'm in London, I'm in Europe. It's like an easy thing for me to hop over. I really would love, this song is super special. Like I would love for you to do the video. Um, he was like, yeah, let's do it. Just come over. So I flew back to London. I shot that video. That was cool. That was kind of rough because it was like, we were in Dungeness, like just on some beach town, like super desolate. It was really cold. I woke up, I was like traveling, so I wasn't really sleeping. I definitely woke up on like 3 hours of sleep, and
Oh wow.
like some stressful stuff happened the night before too, like just with music, people calling me, and then so I was like couldn't sleep. I woke up off of no sleep, got on the train, go shoot this video. It's definitely like cold. Somehow the concept became like this, like, there's like me running around in my underwear or something and stuff like that. And it's just like freezing cold. We're shooting this. It was raining on me at one point it was at night and the water had washed all the way back. And we're like, so we go and we can't find the shore. And we're like, let's just shoot it here because this actually looks crazier because it's just like it looks kind of surreal. With that just getting rained on, I'm like in a trench coat, like throw it off, do the shot, take it back on. Doing that. And then I was like, yeah, I want to finish my album. There had been some friends. I've been going to Stockholm a little bit, like over the years. So I had some friends there. I wanted to help finish it. And then I was talking to my friend. He was like, yeah, I'll help you set up bass and stuff too, if you want to finish your album there. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll extend again. I bought the flight. I went there right after this shoot. So I was definitely like so tired. Went and I did like a week, which is like really finishing it, really locking in every day, like 1-2 sessions a day. Like I did 3 of the songs in that trip.
Wow.
And also this song is on the project called Crest that comes out on the 7th. But that one, I felt like when it got finished, he sent me the final version. We had been like bouncing back and forth once I got back about it. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, this is like, I felt like the story was like pretty encapsulated. Like I felt like I had a song that like connected all these ideas that we had been, working on and like for some reason when I heard that bounce, it was like, oh, it's ready because this connects with this and this and this and this, and the puzzle felt super complete. So it was really that trip. It was like that sort of process of like going, and I felt like I was working really hard, like trying to finish his album, trying to do some really cool stuff, and by the end of it I was like, okay, this feels done, like this really feels complete. And yeah, that's basically how it ended up. Yeah,
Oh
crossing.
right, yeah, I love I watched the video earlier. Oh,
Hey. Oh, it's Tamara. But yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah, the video, I love the video. And then you were talking about earlier how you had how you got a dirt bike. Is that the dirt bike you're riding around in the video, or is that a different one because you were in a different country? I was just putting that together.
No, so this is actually kind of funny. Yeah, it was they had just got it. And it was on top of like being just the craziest shoot day, and I was so hyped to do it because I like believed in this video so much. But it was a really crazy shoot day, and then they get this dirt bike and they're like, yeah, at first he was gonna ride it and I was like, yo, can I ride it? But they're like, yeah, because I wanted to get that shot. And they're like, the guy's like, this was like, it was like really a tuned racing bike, like it was really like intense. This guy used to be like a pro racer or something that we got it from, so he was like really serious. And I was like, I have my bike here, and I grew up riding bikes. That's like where it started. And like I said, like that was
you said that was like your first love, right? Or that was what you wanted to do first, right?
Definitely like my first dream. Like we built the racetrack in our backyard, and that's all I would do.
Wow.
But then I got on the bike. I was like, yeah, I'm a pro. And it was just the fastest race bike ever. And I got in. I was like kind of fighting for my life. Definitely a bit scary, but yeah, it was that was cool. Just all of that. I felt like a lot of life went into that video, a lot of crazy moments, so it's cool to have something like really a lot of, that song. It was such a process doing it. Like I said, I think we did the first top line in 2019, and then I finished it in New York right after that. So this, so much of my life is into that song. This video is this whole experience. So it's like, so much of just like living went into a lot of this art, which is cool, which is like what I kind of strive to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, and the record coming out in a couple weeks from now. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it will be a good moment. It's a really special body of work. I feel like it tells the story a lot of what I've been trying to say. So yeah, I'm really excited for people to hear it.
Well, I appreciate your time, Danny. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, likewise. It's been really good chatting.
I do have one more quick question though before I let you go on. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
For aspiring artists, I say just keep doing it for real. Like that's the thing we talked about with like your perspective changing and like, and you always think this is it, and then you got to keep fighting and like just don't. And you look at the people who do it, and it's the ones who keep going and just find a way to like make something of everything in front of you. And if it's something, and make comment on everything and make it your own. And like, and yeah, just that's the thing. Yeah.